Hello there. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. It's so great to see you here on this lovely December afternoon. For those of you who we've not had the pleasure of meeting before, my name's Mike. I'm one of the co-founders here at Waybook, and this is one of my favourite sessions of the month, and it's also one of my favourite sessions of the year because it's December. It's the end of the year, so we're not just going to be sharing, another update. We're going to be sharing the last updates that are coming into your Waybook account in 2025 and giving you a bit of an idea of what's coming up in 2026 as well. So looking at the names of people who are coming in, we've got some friendly faces in here. So if you are back again, welcome back. It's great to see you once again. And if you're new, this is a friendly space. We like to keep it as engaged as possible. So please feel free to say hello in the chat. Thomas and Jaron have already said hello. Feel free to let us know where you're calling from. I'm in London, as I often am, which means that it's 5 o'clock my time and pitch black already. We know we are in the winter. And we also have the fantastic Elle from the Waybook side as well, who is in the UK, but she's based in Birmingham. Hey, Thomas, from the Netherlands. Okay, amazing. Great to see you here. So, in today's session, what we're going to be going through is some of the key updates which have come out over the last few weeks. And there's been quite a few. Some of them are small, some of them are nice quality of life things. Some of them are massive. So we'll give you a bit of a sense of what they are. Now, firstly, what we're going to be covering is markers complete as a manager mode. Now, I'm going to be the first person to to admit we don't have a very good name for this feature. So perhaps you can tell me in the chat what we should actually be calling this, because it should be better than that. It's more valuable than what it sounds. The second thing is a very small thing around justifying formatting. The reason why we're telling people this here is because sometimes we find the very small formatting changes have a really big impact on how you utilize your Waybook. So that's excellent. We have a much more simplified editor sidebar. So if you've been in your Waybook since, well, let's say in the last 20 hours, you would have noticed a bit of a reshuffle of things. And I'll tell you what they are, why they are, and what more things you're able to do. And then we have a whole new document creation flow. So this has been the main thing that we've been working on over the last couple of weeks. We have things like document ideas, document writer, new ways that you can utilize our document writer, which is basically our AI assistant. So we've got lots of examples. We've got how you can add source files into that. And also you can now do dictation in Waybook. So you can literally just tell Waybook what you need or what you do or don't want included in your Waybook, and it will just do it for you. And then we also have a lot of amendments in that workflow as well. So that is what we're going to cover. Thank you everybody else who said hello. Alaska, Jay from Alaska, hello. And Shad from South Africa. Great to have you here. I will be on your side of the world very soon. I spend January in Cape Town just to get the sun on me. So perhaps we'll be much closer in January. Anyway, let's do this. Let's move on with the first one. So this is a relatively unassuming feature within Waybook, but does have massive impacts for a lot of people within their training setup. So it is the ability for managers to mark as complete on particular trainings. Now, the reason why we did this is because we have quite a lot of businesses that use Waybook that have some form of offline training. So that could be, for example, in a transportation company, they will have a driver trainer that then needs to sit in the truck with a driver and do a practical test every 6 months and just confirm that they're doing everything well. We also have people who are in logistics, in factory floors, whatever that may be, or in fact in plumbing and lots of other field services. So if you have any part of your training where the people aren't completing the training directly on your Waybook, but they're completing it outside, but you just want it all tracked internally, you are now able to do that. So that was the challenge that we were solving. Now, what we've enabled you to do is actually managers are now able to mark as complete on behalf of that user. So you can actually have in a test or assessment on a document so somebody can complete it, or the manager comes in and completes. This basically allows that two-way grading for the thing I mentioned above. And this is available in all accounts. It is available within the document. Now I'm going to show you exactly where you can do this. So if we jump into this trusty Waybook here, which I've probably spent more time in this Waybook than perhaps any other website or tool ever. I kind of love it. So if we're in here, let's say, for example, we have a part of our training. Let's look at the office admin, and we have our office security. Now, in the office security, of course, like any other Waybook document, people would go through that and they'll get themselves up to speed. They'll do the tests, they'll do the assessments, they'll do everything that they need to do. But say, for example, you have a document that outlines the process of that offline conversion, so the offline training. And what I'm able to do as a manager is I'm able to go into the edit mode. I can go onto the progress tab, and I can then actually look at the progress of people on that account. And I can then manually mark as complete. So let's say I've just done that driver trainer with Angela, or I've been on site with Angela. I can then mark that as complete, and I can then say what day did Angela do that. So actually, I did that training with her on the 10th. I marked that as complete, and now we can see that it was last completed here. It was completed. And that means if you've got recurring deadlines, that will still reset. You can reset it manually if you want. It acts exactly in the same way as a normal document, but it just gives you that ability that if somebody's offline and there's an additional piece of training or learning, you can do that on their side. The other thing that this also unlocks is if you've got somebody who's joining your Waybook, or you're porting information or training over into your Waybook, and you don't need them to go through everything, you can actually just say that they've previously completed this document so they're not overwhelmed with everything that they need to do. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the manager mark as complete. As I said, it's not the best name for it, so perhaps if you've got a better feature name, then please do let us know. If you have this within your business and you're looking to solve this kind of two-way training situation and you think that this doesn't fully cut it, let us know, because this is an area we're really excited about exploring more into. Okay, second up is this small formatting change I mentioned, but we're very excited to share it because we know the better your Waybook looks, the more your team look at it, the more they consume and absorb the knowledge, and the more consistent all of your business is, and the faster you can grow. So that's why we think these things are really important. Now, the small change is actually we've just enabled justifying on the formatting. This is just to enhance those visuals and the formatting of your documents. Now, we have this internal conversation very often because we do get requests for people to have more customization over branding and sizes and images and videos, but it all comes down to readability for us. If any of you are similar to me and were around in the internet of MySpace days, if you ever had that MySpace profile with a million different fonts and images and colors and things following your cursor, it was kind of chaos, and people don't absorb in that way. So we're constantly fighting this battle to make sure you have all the customization you need, but we're not inhibiting the content absorption of your team. So the simple task that we've done here is that you can edit your text in a few more ways. One of those ways is the justify format, and the way you can do that is available in all accounts, of course. It's also available in the edit mode of a document. So if we just jump back into that Waybook, if I jump into this document here, let's go to one with perhaps a little bit more text. We'll go into this company history. So I can then go highlight that, and instead of center, write a line, I can justify. It makes your documents look a bit neater. If you print the documents, you might normally want to justify them before you export as PDF and print. And if you use Justify, you'll know. I personally don't use it very often, but we know some people are very, very focused on that. Okay, so I'm just going to go to questions because we've got a couple of questions, I think, from the previous one. So Drew, you've said for the recurring task example, the driver training, if you reset the progress, will the system track each time the task was completed, or was that info overwritten? Yes, it does, Drew. So what you will have in your reports is if you go into the report builder or on a particular bit of content, you can actually see, let's have a look on that. particular document, let's say, we can see how many times they've completed it, and we see the last time they completed it as well. So that shows, okay, they've done it 10 times and the last time was on this. If you wanted to have more robust tracking of all of the times they did it, you can also actually look in the submissions manager. Now, if I go into manage and submissions, I'm sharing something with you. I'm going to share with you in a bit. You will basically see all of the times that anybody has submitted a test or a knowledge confirmation. So if you want that tracked approach on every single time, so you can see the date, see how they answered the questions, see everything, you put a test or a knowledge confirmation on the end of the document, and you have all of that tracked forever. So I hope that answers your question, Drew. Rachel, can admins also utilize manager markers complete task? In other words, can admins override the markers complete task? Yes, absolutely. Admins are fully in control, managers and admins. Amazing, thanks. Keep the questions coming. If you have a question, chances are somebody else has the same question, so please do it. Craig, you've said from a readability standpoint, I noticed when you export a process document in PDF format, it automatically starts new steps on the next page. Is there any way to adjust that to avoid large blank spaces? I hear you. Currently, there's not, but Elle is in the background. Elle, let's log that and see if we can investigate it. There's not a current way because quite often you will have those multi-page documents for the processes. There may be a way that we can do that because I can see if you have smaller steps, you definitely don't want to have, 60-page documents. If you are worried about that blank space and that printing cost, you'll also notice that we have a printable PDF on your kind of download options, which you can go to there, print optimize, and that basically just means we use less of your ink or your toner as well. So we are in mind of keeping things as structured and organized as possible. Okay, right, let me jump back into here. I'm already here. So now the next thing is that we have this simplified editor sidebar. Now, Drew's question has already drawn me to show you this, but the reason why this exists is because we spent quite a bit of time speaking with many Waybook users, looking at how people use the tool most effectively. And we realized that we had actually given you so many things to do and so many options that sometimes we weren't aligning your workflow with the intention of why you were in Waybook. And that's exactly what we've done now. So we align the options on your menu to the intention that we believe you are doing when you're either consuming a piece of knowledge, creating or editing a piece of knowledge. So in order to simplify that workflow, we have totally optimized all of your navigation on the edit mode. So now, instead of clicking on the edit mode and you have a plethora of options and not quite sure where to start if you're looking at documents in multiple different ways, we've now consolidated all of that down into two modes. You're either creating new documents or you're managing existing document submissions or files. And then all of the relevant documents for that workflow, or sorry, not documents, all of the relevant activities for that workflow are aligned. So let me just show you that briefly, and then we will come back to this in more detail because I want to share with you the next feature which is aligned to this. So if we go into the edit mode, instead of this long list of options, you are now in two modes. Are you creating or are you managing? Also, you've got trash, but that's not a different mode. That's just because it's a nice place for trash. And of course, if you want to supercharge your experience, you've got your AI tools, which are always accessible from the bottom at the bottom level here. Now, I'm not going to go any deeper into this until I just share with you the next update, because actually it's very much related to what we're talking about. And then we'll be able to go through this in the full format. And this is your new improved streamlined document creation process. So the reason why we wanted to do this was to actually this is basically what we wanted to do within this was we really wanted to make sure that it's easier for you to create, consolidate, build documents, optimize documents without actually thinking about where that information comes from or who has that information or how ready is that information. We didn't want you to have to think what's the best way to use the tool within Waybook. We wanted you to think about your knowledge, your information, and Waybook is just there in every possible way. So what we've done is you now have the ability to create document ideas. So we see a lot of people when they're looking to optimize their knowledge, they're not quite sure what documents to create. So you have accessibility to the Waybook AI, the Waybook intelligence, creating you document ideas. We then have, by default, the document assistant, and that can then support you with AI examples, with dictation for assistant. So as I mentioned before, you can actually just explain the knowledge gap within the business, or explain a process or procedure, or explain the business to Waybook in voice, and then that will create that content for you. And we've also then changed context files. So we know many of you use context into source files. So that's a name change, but I'll show you exactly how that's changed because it's much more integrated into your workflow. Now, we've optimized how those source files work, and we've also embedded your shots. So if you haven't used shots, start using shots. It's basically your step-by-step SOP capture tool, and we've integrated that more holistically within your Waybook. And we've also then aligned all of those other document creation methods. Now, this is available in all accounts. It's available in the creation mode. But the best way to actually talk about this is let's just get into it. So I have now come back into this document, and here we are looking at the two options. So what mode are we doing here? So if we're actually managing our knowledge, we can then manage our documents in the document manager. Now, this here is basically our holistic view of all of our knowledge, and we can look at the kind of settings, the high level aspects of that. Who owns them? When they're recently published, if there's any documents I need to approve or review. So manage is very much the ongoing management of the knowledge across your team and across your Waybook. The other thing you might want to manage is your submissions. And we mentioned this just as we were speaking with Drew about actually where you see the multiple submissions and how many times people have done it. Here we're able to actually look exactly at individual submissions, and actually what are the answers people have given to your tests. So these are multiple choice, but if they've given text answers or file uploads or anything, you'll see all of those within there. And you'll see on that example, you'll see on that example there that I just pulled up, this submission is obsolete because Mike Banner has submitted a newer version. So you'll have that, and you can see when it was submitted and when the newer one was as well. So that's your second thing to manage. And the final thing to manage is your source files. So the source files are essentially the way for you to then be able to just put all of your raw information into Waybook. So you're not quite ready to optimize it. It's a bit rough. So the example we've got here is this expense transcript I've had with somebody. It's kind of just raw, unstructured notes information. We can upload it all within there. So this is what you want to do when you manage. But when you want to create, instead of deciding what's the source of that information, are you going to use AI? Do you want to use templates? You don't have to worry about that anymore, my friends. You just go to create. And when you're in create, we basically take you to this really enriched creation station. Now, typically when people are creating, they are starting with one of two challenges. One challenge might be, I don't know what documents I need. I need to create the Waybook. I need to create the structure. I need to create, how will you organize this and what goes in? If that is the mode that you're in, then you just start with ideas. And when you come to ideas, you can then literally just start to really think about what knowledge gaps or areas do you have. So if you're starting from scratch, you can actually say, well, look, I want to create a, and actually we can dictate in this if we wanted, but we can say create a marketing handbook. And what Waybook will do is it will actually then look at your existing knowledge structure, your existing documents within Waybook, and it will start to then build out, okay, for your business, here are the marketing handbook that it recommends. You need your social media strategy, your content guidelines, your marketing best practice, how we do performance and analytics. And Waybook will actually place that into the relevant place within your business. So within your Waybook. So if we look at show existing, we can actually then get a chance to see where it's added in. And of course, we can then just add that, and those documents will become our empty documents or our to-do list of documents within Waybook. So that is what happens when you're in the mode of creating your knowledge a bit more holistically within ideas. Now, if you've got some information, say you've got a long form PowerPoint or PDF or Word doc of all of your information, you can just add that source file in there. So we can actually just say, okay, look, I've got this broad list of all of the documents we need, or information of how the business works. You can add that in there, and it will then structure and format that into document suggestions. Now, the other mode that you might be in, if you want to come into the create mode, is if you're looking to create a specific piece of knowledge. So instead of looking at a group of knowledge, multiple documents, you're looking to create a specific SOP, procedure, guidance document, information document, and that's where you come into this creation station. So by default, you're in the assistant, and we're on the writer, which we can see here in the top right. Now, we can then just describe whatever we want. If you are looking for inspiration, you just hit examples here. And these examples will continue to get better when we start to learn a little bit more about what your business type is, what documents you might want, and the documents that you might not have. So this is where that's looking to improve. Here, for example, we want a process for running internal meetings, brand photography guidelines, cybersecurity policy, and essentially this will just give you some inspiration as you move through. Now, the other thing you might want to do is you might just want to talk to it. So if we are creating a piece of knowledge around our expense policy, we want to include the fact that we only have £25 expenses available per day. And we can literally just continue to talk into Waybook, and that will start to gather that knowledge. But if you have a note or a piece of information, you want to put a source file or multiple files in. This is previously what context was. You can click on source files, and you can actually just drag and drop and upload new documents. You can create new text files. You can put lots of bits in. But for now, let me just add this document in. Is that what I want? Yeah, okay, pretty happy with that. So we're just going to add in this raw transcript. Now you can see that actually I can just add multiple documents to this as source files for the document we want to create. Then I'm going to say, create an SOP on how to file your expenses. Now, I'm just going to leave it as that, but you can add a lot more context. Now here, you can now select what type of document you want it to be. Is it a procedure? Is it an SOP? Is it a policy? Is it a resource? Or would you like Waybook to decide on how to format that? Now, what Waybook will do is it will ingest all of the content, the source files, the information, the prospect, the things that you've given it, and it will also use your settings. So if I just click into your settings here, what it will do is it will actually use all of your profile details. So it will use your team size, your description, the language you want it to do, to make sure that the output is really aligned to the type of SOP that you want it to be. So here we've got a draft, we've got what's claimable, what the filing process is, and what the common mistakes are. Now we're pretty happy with that. We're going to put that in. And again, all of this kind of existed in a few parts before, but now it's much more consistent when it comes to that creation station. Now, if you've got any thoughts or questions on this, please do drop that in the chat. But what you'll also see is if you actually just wanted to start with a blank document, then you can just go into basic, you can write that document name, decide what subject you want it to go to, or if you want to create a subject or a category, you can do that within there. Personally, the way I like to create documents is on the left-hand navigation, and I just use this quick add plus. It's very easy to create a new document, and then we jump into that document to create it in the previous way. Now, of course, if you've got documents that you're looking to create one for one, so we say this one SOP, we want to create one other SOP, you can use our import. So you can pull in from any file source, Markdown, Tango, whatever that may be. And we also will have your import history, so you can actually look at what's gone into where before. Now, the other two ways are, of course, your templates. So previously, our templates lived in a separate tab, but if you want to create a document from a template, you come this way. And of course, you can create your own templates. So once you've decided what a great SOP, procedure, policy looks like, you can put that within your Waybook, and then that will essentially, that will live in here for other people to utilize. But the final thing that's been brought into your creation station is Shots. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar, Shots is an SOP capture tool. So it is a Chrome extension. It lives on other browser extension as well, but it can actually record anything on your whole desktop. It doesn't have to be a desktop piece of information. Now, forget that I'm in Waybook. Let's pretend that I'm on, Excel or a CRM or whatever that may be. I can click around, I can click on these documents, do whatever I need to, and I'm basically just sharing with you the step-by-step procedure of how to add a new client onto a system, how to do a social media scheduling post or whatever that may be. Now, once I've created that, that basically then gives me this shot. So here it's screenshot what I'm doing, it's highlighted where I'm clicking, it's created those titles. If there's things in the video that I actually wanted to add in, we can look back through this video and we can add a new screenshot into there. So that creates within there. And let's say, for example, I'm just going to change this. Here we go. We'll turn this into a Waybook shots example. Now I can import it from here, but if I want to come back to that, I can actually then go into create, into shots, and that Waybook example is here. And that then basically just means that I can create a document directly from that, or of course, add that into an existing document to really enrich and do that as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is your creation station. There's lots to play with as you're moving around within there. It's a hugely powerful tool, and there's lots of hidden bits in there which are really optimizing the outputs which you're getting. The key things to remember, you want to be on your writer assistant if you're creating one document, and your ideas assistant if you want to create an idea on what document you need to create from a problem or from a challenge or from a knowledge gap that you have within the business. And then obviously if you want to import or use templates or shots, you can do that from here. If you're ever moving around your Waybook and you say, actually, I want to unlock some of that power, you can click on the AI tab down here and again, get back into that writer from there, or actually manage your source files by directly clicking into there as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are coming towards the end of the session today. If you've got any thoughts or questions, please do put them in the chat and I will definitely get back to you immediately. But whilst that's coming up, let me give you a bit of a hint in terms of what's coming next. So the things that are actively working on, and this is very close, it's been a big piece of work, is improve reports. So we see lots of people using lots of insights within reports. And actually what's been great about that is we want to give you more. We know that actually the more you're understanding how your users are using your knowledge, interacting with your knowledge, making sure that they're consistent within the work and onboarding faster means that you can optimize how the business runs more efficiently. And we're doing a whole overhaul of reports, which is really going to boost that power. The other thing that we're starting to work on very soon is a flowchart builder. So if you want to visually show how pieces move within the business or how procedures work together, you will be able to do that in the near-term future. So that's coming at the early of next year. And actually, we're very excited about that. I can see Thomas, Craig, yeah, you're also looking forward to that. And there is so much more. There is so much more. We're so excited to kickstart 2026 with you. We've got lots of exciting ideas, lots of exciting things within the plan. So without further ado, I'd love to head into questions. If anybody does have any thoughts or questions, now is the time. And perhaps if there isn't anything, because we're doing reports, and whilst we're looking at reports, we're also looking at quite a lot of data over the last year as well. So we've been really excited to see so many exciting things across Waybook. Now, one of those, for example, and I'm actually just pulling this up as we've got this here. So far this year, there's been over 50 million words written within Waybook. So there are a huge amount of knowledge continuing to go within your Waybook. The other thing that we very much enjoyed seeing that there's nearly 1 million steps completed within Waybook this year so far. So every time a step is completed, that's a piece of knowledge learned, that's a piece of information disseminated across your team. And we're super excited that over 1 million units have kind of gone from your minds through Waybook into your teams this year. So we'd just really like to thank you so much for being with us along this journey and continuing to help us help you get on the same page. So, Jared, we've got a quick question. In editing, learning paths are quite linear. Would this be expanded in the future, or are we overlooking something? So, Jared, just great question on that. So, when we're looking at learning paths, really, learning paths are more focused on utilizing your existing knowledge, your existing documents for a particular group of users. So when we add somebody in, of course, somebody in marketing will be able to see all of the sales documents because it's kind of related. But on their onboarding or on their training, you don't necessarily need them to go through all of that. So the learning paths basically means that you can create that linear path for a role, for an activity, and you want them to go through these particular orders, these particular piece of information. Now, what we do see if you wanted something slightly more dynamic is you can actually then create perhaps two learning paths. So you might have an onboarding for a role, and then you might have a health and safety learning path, which perhaps people need to do every year, or a cybersecurity learning path, which may have just 2, 3, 4 documents, but they need to do that every 6 months, or perhaps every year. So you can have multiple learning paths. The way to manage that really well is obviously within your groups. And if you've got training that needs to be done on a regular basis, of course, you can create your deadlines. So we can see, okay, look, every new person, we want you to do these few documents in the first week, then these documents in the second week. But you can also create recurring deadlines. So this basically means that if this is a health and safety or a cybersecurity learning path with 4 or 5 documents in, we say you need to do this every year. And we will reset that a month before your due date. So you've got a month in order to do that or whatever that may be. So that is the way learning paths are currently set up. Jared, if you did have something where you had a requirement for them to be a little bit more dynamic and you don't think multiple learning paths is the solution, please do get in touch. Either send a note or Elle will reach out to you just so we can understand that a little bit more. Because yeah, if you're thinking it, you won't be alone, and we'd love to understand that more to support in that. Okay, no other questions have come on the chat. So if that is the end, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for such a great year. Thanks for joining me in today's session. And we will see you all in 2026. So I hope you have a fantastic end to the year. If you are taking some time off, I hope you are, although a lot of people I speak to in the Waybook management community are saying, do you know what? I'm gonna use this time to get ahead on the year. If you are thinking that, treat yourself to a few days. And I cannot wait to see you all in 2026, where we can all continue to get our business on the same page so we can all enjoy some smooth scaling. And until next time, have a great one. See you.